The following presentation is going to be on food insecurity, mainly in toddlers. Background information on what food insecurity is. Food insecurity is when someone cannot access enough food that is needed for the needs of the human. Many factors can contribute to a food insecure household, which involve poverty and unemployment, as well as lack of housing. This can really affect a toddler, and it might happen to a toddler in a variety of ways, including neglect. So the parent is not listening to the hunger cues of the toddler. The parent does not have the financial resources, so they are not able to go out and buy food for their toddler, and they have to stick to what they are able to buy. Third of all, the parent lacks transportation for food, which means they are not able to go out and buy food for the toddler if the toddler is hungry. This is a chart of food insecurity rates, mainly in child in the US. The following chart demonstrates that Arizona and Hawaii have the highest percentage rates in the whole country. Significance of the problem. Food is essential for the human body to function, and it is important because it can lead to serious health complications. This can really affect toddlers and the way their brain develops. It can lead to them becoming underweight because they are not being fed enough food. It can stunt their growth. So being underweight can really affect them by stunting their growth, and it could lead to negative cognitive outcomes and developmental delays. Toddlers require consistent nutrition for rapid brain and body development. It is crucial for toddlers to be fed in a nutritious way so that they are able to grow and develop in the correct form. Nutritional implications of a food toddler involve iron, which is essential for development and prevention of anemia. The toddler can get anemia if they are not fed the right quantity of iron. Calcium and vitamin D. This is critical for bone growth and strength. 25% showing signs of rickets. It is really crucial for the toddler to get in their calcium and vitamin D through nutritious food, for example, milk. Zinc. It is essential for immune infections and for the toddler to not get sick. Vitamin A promotes vision and growth. It is so important for toddlers to have vitamin A so that they can grow. Omega-3 fatty acids support brain development, which can help them in their education. Impact on diet quality. Irregular meal patterns and meal skipping can worsen the nutritional gap. 35% of preschool-aged children eat less than 3 meals a day. Food insecurity effect on iron deficiency and anemia. There have been multiple studies that show that there is a positive correlation between food insecurity and the risk of getting anemia for preschool children. Toddlers are at a higher risk of the deficiency because of how fast they are growing. They need adequate intake of iron for their growth. Research has shown that there is an increase in the risk of anemia among toddlers. A study that was conducted in 2017 analyzed 19 studies. This study showed a 27% increase in anemia. Those who lived in food insecure households are at a 45% higher risk in iron deficiency anemia than those who live in food secure households. This data can demonstrate how living in a food insecure household can really affect the nutritional implications of a toddler. Toddlers are at a higher risk in getting this deficiency, and even more if they live in a food insecure household. The following is a chart and is from the study that was presented before. So slide 6, you can view at the top near the confidence interval, and they are hitting the 95% confidence interval. This means that if the sample were to be replicated, that the true population mean would be shown.
Okay, so I'm going to discuss the effects of food insecurities in toddlers. There was a study conducted in 2019 that collected data from a sample of 48,080 people, where 29,241 out of the sample lived in a food insecure household. As far as research findings go, they found a negative effect on food insecurity on the child's health in those households, a higher rank of healthcare use in those households, higher risk of asthma, and a general higher risk of depressive symptoms in those who were living in a food insecure household. So, as far as health effects of food insecurity in preschoolers, a study was conducted in 2020 to observe the health effects of food insecurity in preschoolers. The findings were that children who are food insecure are more likely to experience asthma. They are also more likely to experience anemia and as well as experience obesity and frequent hospitalization due to the food insecurity within their households. As far as nutritional impact goes on children, key dietary components that toddlers need would be things like vegetables, vitamin D, whole grains, and dairy products. Children that live in food insecure households have a lower intake in fruits and vegetables. They're probably more exposed to more foods that are not as like healthy. Meat intake was lower in children who lived in food insecure homes, and adults in food insecure households consume fewer fruits and vegetables, which could lead to toddlers not consuming enough fruits and vegetables because of their parents. Um, so as far as existing strategies go, there is a program called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP. SNAP provides financial assistance for low-income families with children to purchase food, and they are also the largest federal nutrition assistance by the USDA in the US. As far as the impact goes, they have been known to reduce food insecurity by up to 30% among children experiencing low food security. And children who are in SNAP households are 20% less likely to be food insecure compared to those who are eligible but do not enroll. Another program is the Women, Infants, and Children's Program, also known as WIC. This program offers nutritious foods as well as breastfeeding support. They also provide nutrition education to pregnant women, and young children, and they are administered by the USDA. As far as the impact goes, WIC participation is associated to a 10% decrease in low birth weight and a 25% reduction in infant mortality. Children that are under 3 years of age receiving WIC benefits are more likely to be in good health and appropriate growth metrics in comparison to children that are not a part of WIC. Another existing strategy is community and social support. As far as food banks go, there are more than 53 million people that have turned to food banks, food pantries, and meal programs for assistance in 2021. A study found that 10% a study found that a 10% increase in the frequency of food pantry visits led to a 5.7% reduction in the likelihood of food insecurity and a 6.2 decrease in the likelihood of poor health.
Parental practice impact. Parents feeding practices can affect the child in a number of different ways. This can include development of healthy food preferences, so whatever the parent eats can influence the child. It can affect the way the child learns and prepares food. So if the adult or parent is preparing food in a healthy way and is involving the child, they can learn. But if they're not helping them and they're eating processed foods, that'll be harder for a child to learn. They can also influence the child on when and where they should eat. So if the adult is eating at the dinner table, structured meal time, that is often helpful for the child to know what time it's supposed to eat, but it can have the opposite effect as well. It also affects the way the child talks about food and how they perceive food. So if the parent is talking about food in a negative aspect, like this will make you overweight or that kind of thing, like talking about food in a negative way, the child will develop a negative relationship with food. Same with the opposite. If the adult is talking about it in a positive way, it can also lead to positive things as well. A study was conducted to help food insecure households with feeding practices because they were at a disadvantage because of food insecurity, especially with preschool age children. The research showed that the highest feeding practices in food tolerance households involved the pressure to eat, so an adult forcing them to eat, and restriction, so making them only be allowed to have a certain amount of foods. And it shows it in this chart right here. It shows the different types of pressure that adult is putting on a kid, or like different tools that they could use and how much it affects the child's eating. So it shows all of that in the columns below. One of the lower, um, so praise shows positive impact on the feeding spectrum. Food insecurity can have effect on iron deficiency and anemia. Multiple studies have shown that there is a positive correlation between food insecurity and the risk of getting anemia for all ages. We're going to focus on just preschool age children, but research has shown that there is an increase in the risk of anemia among toddlers and preschool age children, which is extremely alarming. So we want to make sure that there is things put in place to help food insecure preschool age and toddler age children. A study conducted in 2017 analyzed 19 studies which showed 7% increase in anemia for those who live in a food insecure household. And those who lived in food insecure households are 45% higher risk in iron deficiency anemia than those who live in a food secure household. So those populations and households that are food insecure are significantly higher percentage of developing anemia, and preschool age children are at a higher risk in getting this deficiency because of how fast they are growing and they need adequate iron intake for their growth. So that's also important, and that graph shows that as well. There are some supplemental nutrition assistance programs. This program has been designed to help alleviate food insecurity in households. Um, Raising SNAP benefits by 29% could help decrease the recipients of children who live in food insecure households. It also shows in this graph the difference between food insecure and food secure households with the effects of SNAP. Raising SNAP gross income from 130% to 185% would reduce food insecurity rates by 30.6% for those households, which is a large amount, which is good. Expanding this program to summer food services would help the decline in food insecure children. So that's extremely important to involve other programs. And like the National School Lunch Program, this program was established under the National School Lunch Act under President Truman in 1946. This program was made to provide healthy lunches to children that are experiencing food insecurity, as well as making it available to children who are food secure as well. But the target audience for that would be food insecure children. It operates in nearly 100,000 schools, starting in preschools, which is great for the preschool age children so that they can start at an early age, having a good relationship with food and that sort of thing. In 2023, the program provided 4.6 billion lunches to children throughout the country, which is just giving a great program for kids at school, especially starting in preschool, to be able to have lunch and have it consistently. They're directly affected by food insecurity, so this food every single day is really important for them. They all have access during the school year to eat healthy, balanced meals. One downside to this program is that it's often hard to get the cost of lunch covered by the school or the government. Another major problem is that these preschool age children are not in school year round. So there's a time period during the summer which they are not experiencing having lunches provided for them, but there are some programs in the works that could help with that as well. There are just to like what I was talking about earlier, there's supplemental programs to help combat food insecurity. WIC is another great program. It's the special supplementation program for women, infants, and children. It provides extra support to families from the time of pregnancy until the child turns 5 years old. So there's a little diagram there that shows what WIC does and how it impacts daily life for these women and children. It's a great program, and its purpose is to provide access to healthy foods and resources to combat food insecurity. Um, yeah, and they provide access to free healthy options, and breastfeeding support and nutritional education as well. I think that's super important for parents of these young preschool age children to become educated on what foods are good for their children and are whole and nourishing for them, so that can decrease food insecurity for them. There's also a huge need for continued research and funding on how insecurity is impacting preschool age children. There's not a ton of research out there. There is some, as mentioned earlier in this presentation, but needs to be an increase in funding to already established programs that can help children dealing with food insecurity, like those school lunch programs or WIC. They could always use more funding to reach a larger audience and be able to provide food for children on the weekends or during the summer. Um, Another example of this would be holding educational seminars for parents who are in these situations, on what programs are available to them to help their preschool age children. I think a lot of them don't know the options that they have for them, and so this is a great way to show them the resources that they have. Just to continue about the future research needed in this area of food insecurity for preschool age children, it would be helpful to investigate the long-term effects of early nutritional intervention on cognitive and physical development. So if they were in a food insecure house, and if they were helped early on and had those interventions, was there positive effects from that, and just studying that more. Also, to explore the social determinants of food insecurity, we know that there's some factors like race and financial determinants that impact food insecurity, but more specifically for preschool age children. Also, developing target interventions for high risk communities with limited access is really important, as well as researching the psychological impacts of food insecurity in children and developing strategies to help their mental health. So, maybe like in schools or anything like that, to have psychological interventions just to check on them to make sure they're okay and give them the tools to talk about their food insecurity and help them not have lifelong problems with that. There also needs to be a change in policy to help decrease the psychological impact. There is a lot of government programs now, but there needs to be some reform in those to make sure all children have access that are food insecure. Researching how food insecurity in children this young can impact their development. So, how preschool age children, how them growing up, if they were severely impacted by being food insecure, that would also be a great thing to research, as well as different therapy options available to these children who are impacted by food insecurity, so that they can set themselves up for a great life after not being food insecure anymore. And that takes us to the conclusion. What we've concluded from the research is that food insecurity in preschool age children has short and long-term nutritional and health consequences, which include stunted growth, cognitive delays, behavioral issues, and increased risk of chronic illness. This is a critical issue that requires different combinations of approaches, such as policy changes, nutritional education for families, and implementation of community programs for nutritional assistance. Further direction would be advocating for changes within the pre-existing program, such as an increase of funding and expanding such programs, as well as addressing social determinants such as poverty and housing, which all overall helps reduce food insecurity and health equity. Additionally, improving these already existing programs can help provide more help to these young children and lead to more health equity. These are our references that we used. And then this was our presentation contribution.